Okay, so if I have 5 to the 2 minus x equals 5 to the third, then the bases are the same. So I can set these exponents equal. That has to equal that. So 2 minus x has to equal 3. 2 minus what would equal 3? That's weird. If you just follow it through, it will work and make sense. Multiply by -1 on both sides. X equals -1. Raise your hand if you had x equals -1. Awesome. Okay. So it's all about getting those bases the same, right? So then what happens when instead of just like setting it up like this, we say, oh, but I'm going to make it this. Then you should learn how to munch these together and make it 5 to a power. And you should know how to make that into 5 to a power. And then once the bases are the same, it should be easy. Give it a shot. Mm-hmm. Learning. Did you get 5 to the 4x minus 3 is equal to 5 to the third? Raise your hand if you got that far. Okay, awesome. Then it's just 4x minus 3 has to equal 3. And then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And I get 4x equals 6. And x equals 6 over 4, which is 3, no, yeah, 3 over 2. There we go. Whew. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, awesome. And there's not too much more I need to teach you, really. What the weird ones are these kind. All right, so there's one more. Okay, let's say we had that one. Write this one down. You're used to the left side, but you're not used to having it equal something. You're used to having that left side and just having to simplify that. So remember that the numbers go with the numbers and the variables go with the variables. So 2/12, anybody in here knows how to simplify that. Yep, 1/6. And then your x's, hopefully you know how to handle that. But if I have a 1 and a 6, you hopefully know where to put the x's, whether that's on the top or the bottom. Did you put 3 minus -1 makes 3 plus 1 makes x to the fourth? And did you put it on top? That's right. Another way I've showed you is that this can go up to the top, because those are like the people that live in the lower level of the condo and are unhappy because they have a negative exponent. And you say, I'm going to make them happy by letting them live upstairs. All right. And then that equals 36. What have I told you about clearing denominators, clearing fractions? Just multiply by the denominator. The denominator is 6, so I'm multiplying by 6. Times 6, 36 times 6, that's gross. X to the fourth is equal to 36 times 6, which really means 6 times 6 times 6. Okay? 216. Now, How do you finish, though? Trying to get x alone. How do you get that power off of there so x can be truly alone? If I could get that to be a 1. So this is an important moment. How many of you know what to do? Raise your hand if you know what to do. Only a few of you. So watch. Pay attention. You've heard of multiply both sides by something. You've heard of subtract something from both sides. You've heard of add something to both sides. Did you know that you could put both sides to any power that you want? Which power would be smart? Putting it to the 4th, that's not going to make anything better. Putting it to the 1/4 power, though, some of you will recognize, oh yeah, that's going to work. Why is that going to work? Because this times this makes x to the power of 1. X is alone. And 216 to the 1/4, I have no idea. That's just a strange answer. It's not like, oh, it's 3. It's the 4th root of 216. If you needed to know, you go like this. 216 to the power of, and why do you think this would not work? Because the first thing it would do is put it to the power of what? It would put it to the power of 1. 216 to the power of 1 is 216, and then it would just divide by 4. How could I fix it so that it would actually do 216 to the 1/4? Put it in parentheses. That's how you'd put in 216 to the 1/4 power. Not some nasty decimal. 3.83. What were some of the elements of this problem that made it difficult? Well, the first thing, it had great big jumbo fraction things. Does those look familiar, kind of like they were on the top 20? They were. That's why, on a problem like this, I want people to at least have that part as a happy place. We've practiced that enough. That should be easy. Then, we had to know about clearing fractions. Was that on the top 20? Oh, yes, it was. That was on the top 20. You have to multiply by the denominator on a couple problems on the top 20 to fix it. And then, this is brand new. That's the only thing that's new. And that's that if you have a power and you want to get rid of it, you multiply by the reciprocal of that power. So if I have a like this, you put it to the what power? To the 1/3 power. That's the only thing that was really new. But in the other problem, there were so many places where if you didn't know your basic algebra here, you couldn't solve this question, including things like you better put fractions in parentheses. Okay, so this was the only new thing. You've done all the other pieces, but we have put so many little pieces together to get this done. Let's look at your homework for today. Everybody find it. It's a Schoology quiz. Yay! But we'll do the first like 5 of them together. That leaves you only 10 questions. It's not that bad. And you got a lot of time to work today. I'm pausing for a moment. So on this top one, my first thought is if I can get those together and make it 4 to a power, then I got the bases the same. So Mr. SD, can you tell me what to do? So you're saying it's 4 to the 2x?
Yeah.
Check yourself.
Oh, or 2 plus x.
There you go. 2 plus x or x plus 2. And it doesn't matter if you say it the one way or the other, but you have to say plus. Okay, now say what you said before.
And then subtract 2.
All right. There you go. The first one was 3. Now, notice if it says if it's more than one solution, as in sometimes there's more than one answer for these things. In this case, there wasn't. Can't think of anything else I can put in here that would make it into 4 to the 5th. Right? Okay, but there are times where there's 2 answers. Why? Because if you have this, remember if you come down with something like this, the answer isn't just 4. You know what I'm talking about? 4 and negative 4. So don't forget, if you do a fraction power like this, that means square root, right? And don't forget, Why is there two answers? Because when you do this, you get absolute value of x. And so the square root of 16 is 4, but it's also, because it's the absolute value of 4, you get 4 and negative 4. Okay, I'm just giving you an example of how that can come up. Let's keep just plotting through this, and let's see if you can get this. This one's a to the 2 minus x is equal to a to the negative third. And as soon as I had the bases the same, it's golden. That equals that. And anybody can solve that. Okay, on to number 3. I'd like to just do this a different way than normal. Normally, I would have said that was the same as 1 over x. But I'd like to do the deal where we put it to a power. What power should we put it to? To the negative 1 power. So I do it to both sides. And negative 1 times negative 1 makes positive 1. And x to the positive 1 is that. What is 1/4 to the negative 1? 4. Now remember on this, I've set it to have 2 tries. And if you can average a 75%, you will get a 100% in the gradebook. I'm also willing to say if you try it twice and you're really close, I'm not going to be super tough on the whole 75%. If you get 74% and the kid tried it twice, I'm not going to deny them. But if you try it only once, no chance I'm going to just bump you up. But if you do the work to try it twice and you just barely miss the 75% threshold, I'll be nice. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Just a moment to clear that off. I could do this a lot of ways, but I'm going to start by putting it to a power. I put them both to the negative what? Negative what? 1/2. Do you get I just square rooted this? If I just did the square root of x squared, I have 2 answers. Don't get trapped into just saying 3. Why? Because I did a square root. You're used to seeing your square roots look different. That's a square root, though. I did a square root on both sides. That's the kind that gets 2 answers. Because of this again. If I have x squared equals 25 and I square root and I square root, I get the absolute value of x. And that gives me 2 answers. That's what this is like. When you do a half power on both sides, you're doing a square root. So you'll get 2 answers. Yes? It is. That just means it's a square root and flipped. But it's still a square root on both sides. All right, so this is part of your answer. You finish it from there. This next one, I'd like to clear my denominators out. So the first thing I can do is simplify that and that. And that'll just be plain old x over 3. And on this side, it's a 4 equals 4. I bet you can solve it from there. Right? I don't think that's too hard. Multiply both sides by 3 and you'll clear the fraction. It won't be a fraction anymore. These are canceling. If that bothers you, you can think of this as having an x to the 1 power. And then it's x to the 2 over x to the 1. And you subtract the powers, it means x to the 1. All right. This one, a lot of unhappy exponents here. Maybe bring those up to be with the other ones that are positive. And then you'll have x to the 8th on top and x to the 7th on the bottom. And hopefully you know how to cancel those. Then I would multiply by 2 to get rid of this 2 on the bottom. I'd times both sides by 2. That's how I'd do it. All right, so there's some tips. I got you about halfway through. The rest of the time is yours. If you need one-on-one help, please come up and ask. That's all I got for you for today.